All I need is one mic. That's all I need.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be prepared for Miss Kathy Faye.
Gold leaf. While mining a black river, a tribute to a sunken tributary, broad pans and chapped hands to the banks where the ravine falls into rocks that slice open any softness. A windburn makes for fire and ice, and cold currents drag arms and legs sifting through pebbles and silt, each flake painstakingly sought, so little gold to speak of. They seem at first glance only a trace of the treasure sought, tiny and cheap and momentary, trapped and sinking and swept away, hardly anything to speak of. But in relentless search, find them in the deepest reaches and save them in secret stashes. Return for the gold plating like a newly redeemed skin, a relenting calm and legitimacy. But when laid upon the surface, realizing the source and the foliate, realizing the extent of our foolishness, a desire to improve creates a mask, a thin overlay upon abundant supply. Unimaginable state of grace, please let us be modeled by it. All hardship is not in vain, and so many times we thought there was nothing to speak of. In perseverance, we know that it took a search for gold and all attempts to improve upon natural state, to realize what we're made of. The exhumed bile and other humors of the dry earth and underwater territories come to nest momentarily portside. A silent pipeline emerges from the tundra, conveyed in protest of the unforgiving seasons. Hearing of a torn hull hemorrhaging its cargo into the sea and these vast marine lines, a slick of dark watercolors and varying viscosity, drifts toward the mainland fjords and inlets, dredging the simple organisms, fish and waterfowl. A seabird with grotesque headdress, crude oiled feathers and eye caps, its fans, wings and paddles feebly toward a beach coated in graduated layers, suffocating along the silica. Elsewhere, a rusting and prayerful plantation of iron-rocking horses paying penance, the quiet metallic squeal of their tipping unceasing across the nation toward the fractured black shale, historical ink extracted from the sand. Platform rigs measure man's steps out into the Gulf. The iron scaffolding of drills barely holds their weight, exceeding 100 years of engineering. Mountains of contractual documents line the vaults. Lay of the land meets the law of opportunity. A constant dripping from the reservoir darkens the asphalt beneath my method of transport. Inside the engine burning in perpetual single firing, we travel through time and distance at will. We inherited the earth the moment we were born. Thank you. Open-faced buildings, gutted wire, metal, and concrete dimming at night as night descends. I run up a tiny gravel mountain to see yellow and pink haze and tired horses. Tripping over streets and sidewalks past the Ferris wheel, I break open a knee and later an ankle, threads torn over joints. And then toward the city, breathing more deeply and laughing openly. There is something to be said about abandon and mindlessness, about how it is not as much an erosion as it is a momentary release, a loosening of that which binds, childhood fears of potential injury, brooding and avoidance of impact, hypervigilance and too much engagement or not enough, anxious listening and anticipation. My very own fleet of sad carriage horses, now abandoned or set free, unblinded and unbridled, and all is let to wander these streets, given permission and allowed in moments of structurelessness. Now I watch feet over fountains, take a ride on a lively conveyor, both holding on and letting go. I strike a spine and crush everything into the narrow glass corner of a locked revolving door to a building rising into spires. A construct of the future which may or may not symbolize something about me and my relationship to time and space, and energy spent building walls and doorways into them and connections between that will be unlocked in the morning. Yeah. Betraying. Betray them as is natural your feelings, and the word asunder, it comes to mind in the microfilaments of the things that haunt. A blind light in the dark, searching for direction on the rail line of self-deceit. In the dream, an enclosure for animals of various kinds. A gestalt repetition, variations on a theme of entrapment. A wild horse rearing, trying to beat down the gate. Screams through flaring nostrils and the unmistakable equine angst. And then, another time, feline hissing and desperation, clawing inside a box, ready to shred its captor. And again, a third time, an unchaining of countless locks on the door of separation from a familiar and so beloved assailant. Last night, I dreamt of a bulldozer and a crane behind the controls. I was to clean up a vacant lot, strewn with all the remnants of my childhood and former life, like one of those glass vending machines full of toys. And the claw hand you love, you lower awkwardly, you also love it, to pick up novelties and keepsakes, except I was to clear it all away, the mundane and the waste-worthy scraps of old fabric, metal, plastic, and paper, and wooden things. And wouldn't you know how surprised I was to dream of you alone in a pasture, sitting on a fence, and I observed, not even present, but feeling so betrayed, that you had allowed yourself to be so broken and so isolated, not by a master, but by your own hand in lieu of one. And if you could just free yourself from your own bondage, you wouldn't have to cage me. And wouldn't you know that we built this cage together just so I could keep you company, just as you did for someone else who couldn't bear to be loved so long ago. This one's called Blind Faith. Filtered light through another time, it is a haze of particles lit up, and all my mistakes, the ways in which I take them for granted, I hope to make up for them. I love as imperfectly as I do because I am moved to, and herein lies my meaning and purpose. I want not to be blind to you, lost in something selfish, a reflecting pool. I love you. I love you too. Thank you. Yeah. I've learned what I can live without, so much more than I ever thought. But I can't live without this, friends and faith and the ability to proceed, my hope even without hope. I want to be better at what I am and will be, and I can only move blindly with that, with what I understand as direction. All right. see love. The love of man and woman or parent and child, friend and enemy,